What is going on, everyone? My name is Boit, and I'm back with some more Age of Mythology Extended Edition. It is time for some new stuff to happen. With the release of AoM EE, I've decided to uh, probably put a bit more effort into uploading stuff. I'm nearing the end of first semester of university, so I should have a lot of time to put some content out. I want to start with seeing as there's been a huge influx of new players who've got heaps of RTS experience and heaps of potential to get good and get good quickly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just chuck together this general concepts video that I've been thinking of, and hopefully a lot of the things I say will help you guys out. So let's jump right into this. Just move over here, jump into here. All right, let's start with the gods. Now, as a new guy, as a new player, I hear this time and time again on Reddit, on RTS Sanctuary online, whenever anyone talks to me who's new, like, which god should I play? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a full run through of all 12 gods, their weaknesses, their strengths, and their playstyle, and I'll sort of explain why each one is where they are in terms of power, and yeah, basically, yeah. So basically, there's three tiers at the moment, and by tiers I mean like power levels where what gods are good, where and why. So the tier 1 gods, there's actually 4 of them. If you think the game is incredibly imbalanced, that's probably because you're playing a lesser tier god than this, and as a result you're going to be struggling because these gods are just simply in a better place than the other ones. So we have Zeus, Isis, Set, and Uranus. They are in the top 4, and the reason that we use a tier system for Age Mythology is because it's very difficult to put one god higher than another god, because of the way that it's structured in strength points, in timings, and all that other junk. Basically, certain gods are strong in certain points of the game, and certain gods just have such power as a result. So let's start with Zeus, because he's a tier 1 god. He's the first god we all play. We play him in the campaign, tutorial, or whatever. First god we all play. Let's just start with him. He's actually a tier 1 god, and these are the reasons why. He's got the god path of Hermes and of Athena, and basically, we'll start with the bonuses he's got. So he's got 15 initial favor, 200 favor cap, 38% villager favor rate, speed increase, 12% hoplite speed, and 100% damage versus buildings with his infantry. Now what this means is, A, he has access to pseudo siege weapons in the classical age. No other god has this. And he has access to basically a free myth unit in the second age with his 15 favor. Like both the Minotaur is 14 and the Centaur is 12 favor, so you just have to pay for the base resource, that's wood or food, to get that initial myth unit out. So Zeus, and also hoplite speed at 12% means he's going to be able to have a little bit more mobility with that really slow, powerful army in the hoplite Toxotote compo. Where am I up to? Yeah, okay, so classical age. You have the option of going Athena or Hermes. Athena means you're going to get access to restoration, which is by far, in my opinion, it's the strongest god power in combination with an army, because it basically wins you a fight which you have no business of winning. Makes your units invincible for about 6 seconds, I think. 7 seconds. 7 seconds of basically invincibility, and therefore if your opponents fight it while you're restoring, which a lot of new players do, they're going to lose that fight. Hermes, on the other hand, offers you ceasefire. Ceasefire is 60 seconds of no fighting, which means you can dictate for 1 minute in the game, I don't want to fight here. You can use it to steal a town center. You can use it to block a god power. You can use it to delay your opponent attacking you, meaning you can do a bit of booming and all that other things. But more importantly, the centaur is what you get offered as the myth unit for Hermes, which is basically the bread and butter of Zeus's classical age. He can raid, and he can get ahead economically because of it. Centaurs are extremely strong at picking off villages. If you have 2 centaurs with a special shot, special ability power ready to use, they will one hit the villager. So you can run around with like 6 centaurs. You find a stack of 8 villages or something. You focus fire 3 of those villages with 2 each of those centaurs, and you pick off a villager each with that. Basically, it's really difficult to deal with because they're incredibly quick, and they're just really obnoxious. And also they cost wood, which means you can build villages with no hassle in trying to balance your economy there. We'll move on to the heroic age. Zeus's heroic age, or just Greek's heroic age in general, is very underwhelming compared to the other. I'm going to say, compared to Egyptian and Norse, Atlantean's heroic age is pretty underwhelming as well, but we'll get to that later. So most people skip the heroic age, and by that I mean they'll go to the heroic age off of 3 town centers, and just jump straight to the mythic age and get there anyways. However, this isn't always the right choice. Sometimes you might want to fast heroic on water, might be appropriate, or use the underworld passage to finish a game in terms of getting your army past a specific point to attack their gold mine or something like that. And then of course Mythic Age is where Greek shines, and it's pretty much why, in my opinion, Zeus is the strongest, or is in tier 1 god. It's because of his Mythic Age. He gets access to Hephaestus, which is plenty, which is about 15 villages worth of economy. Colossi, which is the strongest myth siege unit in the game. Bellerophon, which is arguably the strongest hero, including Son of Osiris, which is a huge call to make. Son of Osiris is obviously, well, he's in my opinion the best at dealing with an army, but Bellerophon, you can rebuild it, picks off siege weapons in 1 hit, picks off myth units in 1 hit. The only thing it doesn't do is 1 hit an entire army, which is obviously Son of Osiris' strong point, but we'll get to that later anyways. And obviously Hephaestus gives you the upgrade for armory, which means because you've boomed so hard to get to the Mythic Age, you'll probably be hitting it about 18 minutes-ish if you're playing against someone good who's not really giving you anything and you're not really giving them anything. It's about standard in terms of the passive play that sometimes happens. You'll get away with getting to the Mythic Age at 18 minutes and not having any armory upgrades, and getting this cheap armor means you can slap down 3 armories, upgrade them all at a time, costing like 75 resources each. It's really, really strong. And also Hera, if you're in some sort of advantage but you just need that finishing blow, the Lightning Storm is an incredibly good way to close out a game. I'd probably say you want to pick Hephaestus 95% of the time though. And that comes with experience. For when you pick Hera, I've seen some of the greats pick Hera and make some amazing plays with it. So don't get me wrong, Hera is definitely an option every single time. You just have to know when to do it. Alright, so that was a really long-winded explanation of why Zeus is so strong, as why he's tier 1. Hopefully I can spend less time on Hades and Poseidon, because most of what I've covered in Zeus is similar to Hades. Anyways, Hades has stronger buildings, shades up here for when you lose units, and he gets a bonus for his archers. He's also got access to Sentinel, which isn't very good, and it's just a defensive thing, and you can use towers. Every god has access to towers, they just upgrade towers. It's basically free towers for around your base. So instead of paying the 200 wood, 100 gold, you can slap down sentinels and have a similar sort of feeling of protection. Yeah, so Hades' classical age is very different to Zeus because he doesn't have access to Hermes, he can't abuse centaurs, so he actually can only play aggressive. He's got Ares, which is probably one of the most aggressive second age gods because it's got access to pestilence, which it falls off really hard the longer you hold on to it. If you use Pestilence at like 5 minutes and 30, just after your opponent who advanced to 5 minutes has built like 3 longhouses and a temple, that stops that building for 45 seconds, which means you can get 45 seconds worth of training time on them and push just as it finishes. And as soon as their units pop out, you kill them, and then you get a really easy win like that. But if you hold on to it, now I'm not saying this in every single case, but if you hold on to it, your opponent can build buildings in multiple places, and then you want to use it at a crucial time. You use it, they've already got full population, they run away, so they don't lose any units, so you don't get any advantage, and then you just down a classical age god power. On the other hand, he does have Hades does have access to Athena still, which does have that really strong restoration, and Minotaur in her kit, so that's always good as well. But as we go back to Zeus, to compare it to Hades and why Hades is only tier 2 instead of tier 1, Hades doesn't have that 100% infantry damage against buildings, which, as I said earlier, is basically siege weapons in the classical age. And that means that to be aggressive, it's going to be very difficult to take down buildings, and if you can't take down buildings, you can't finish the game. So the aggressive nature of Athena and Ares is sort of bad. Therefore, you have to play for a more timing-based game, which I'll go into at a later video when I continue these concepts. Aphrodite, we'll go into the Thor cage. Aphrodite is, if Zeus had Aphrodite, Zeus would be, in my opinion, the strongest god. Aphrodite means it's like a timing god. It makes Hades' early heroic age, really, really strong, because if you know, if you've heard me talking earlier in recent videos or whatever, 10 minutes is about the time that gold mines expire, and it's about the time you hit the heroic age, and therefore you can use curse and hit your opponent with a restoration curse timing and win the game. So if you're all about timings and all that other good stuff, Hades is a really strong god for you. Mythic age, again, Hephaestus really super strong, same reasons as before. Artemis, also super strong for closing out a game or for pushing through a position that your opponent's been set up, also for killing a Titan gate. So you can trade Earthquake for Titan and then get your own Titan out and be at an advantage there as well. So that's always a strong thing. So yeah, the reasons why Zeus is tier 1, Hades is 2/2 is basically Hoplites aren't that strong. He doesn't have access to Myrmidon. I don't think I went over Myrmidon, but Myrmidon are an incredibly strong unit that Zeus has access to in the Mythic Age. And he doesn't have access to Bellerophon, strongest hero in the game. He has access to a Polyphemus, which is not very strong at all. It's pretty poor. Actually, Polyphemus? No, it's Perseus. Perseus. I'm not sure. Perseus, I think it is. Perseus kills myth units with one shot, but it's not a very good range, so he gets kind of crushed because he has to be in a pretty bad position in the fight to actually kill a myth unit. So he'll kill one and then he'll die. So you'd be trading 1 for 1. It's sort of not value. As my Hearthstone in me comes out. Anyways, that's Hades. If you want to play defensive and sort of boomy and stuff, you can play Hades, and timings as well work really well. But Poseidon, while also tier 2, is slightly stronger than Hades in my opinion. Not strong enough to warrant to be in any other tier. In terms of tier 1, he's still slightly stronger than Hades because access to Hermes. Also, we start with the really sickness of Poseidon is that he gets 10% less cost on cavalry and 15% less stables. And I just learned something new. He actually has a 10% better market buy-sell rate. I did not know this. If you're learning something new, that's something I learned. That's cool. It's not really relevant because using the market is generally a bad thing. But in any case, the 10% minus on cavalry means his economy is just going to be in such a strong place using the Hippocon Toxotos sort of combo. All Hippocon strategies as well are very, very good. And also the 15% less stable cost means he can have less villages on wood to get the early military buildings out, which means you can have more villages on other resources. So yeah, he's got these two gods. He's got Ares and Hermes. So Ares again, very aggressive god. You want to be very aggressive if you're going to go through him. Uh, and also he's got access to lure, which attracts up to a thousand units of food. So let's say an elephant and a rhino. Would it grab a rhino? Maybe not. Maybe an elephant, a deer, and a goat. Maybe that's what you'll get. That's actually a really good haul. But basically, it means you can put villagers to hunt next to your town center, which means no walking time, which means more income earlier. So he can be aggressive because of this. He gets more income than other gods because he doesn't have the walking time, which means he can be more aggressive. Yes, makes sense. Clear and concise. So let's say you're playing a Mediterranean. You chuck lure down, you get a board, you advance at 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Ares is the right choice here, not Hermes, because you're rushing. That's what you want to do. You want to rush water, grab water, use pestilence to stop them from making boats. Make your own boats. You're going to be up 4 boats by the time he gets any out, and you'll be in a really good position to win that game. Heroic Age, again, he's got access to Aphrodite, so you can make that really, really crisp timing at the 10-minute mark to Gold Starve or anything like that. It's really, really strong. Dionysus as well, not the strongest god, however, he does have access to the upgrade for cavalry, which makes them really, really strong. And if you are pursuing a strong cavalry unit game and thinking about finishing the game before it gets super late game, then Dionysus is really strong. Gives you bronze. Bronze isn't the best heroic age. It's basically like a lesser form of flaming weapons. Get to why flaming weapons is super, super strong later in the video. But basically it makes your units more tanky, and that's about it. It's really easy to run away from. It doesn't offer you any more brute force if you want to push through stuff if they run away, and it's basically just a scare tactic. Hydra, on the other hand, are incredibly strong. So if you've got a lot of favor stacked up from in the classical age, you can go Hydra. But also Nemean Lineman's also extremely strong. So it's basically a gold versus food thing there. Skylar as well. If you want something to secure the water for you in heroic age, you can go through Dionysus, grab Skylar, and win the water because Skylar are ridiculously strong on water. Like in the heroic age, there's literally no way to deal with them. They beat their counters, which are the hammer ships, and get more heads, which means they can kill more hammer ships. It's just really, really strong. And similar thing to Hades with the mythic age. He's got access to Artemis and Hephaestus. Hephaestus is really, really strong. Artemis for finishing off a game. He's also got access to some really, really weak mythic unique units in the Heteroi. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but basically they're cavalry for the late game, which is dumb because crenellations and mass towers are such a frequent thing to see in the late game. So making cavalry is a bad idea. That's the gist of it. If you play Poseidon, you're not playing for the super late game with Heteroi, you're playing for it with Colossi and Heliopoli, which is why Poseidon isn't quite as strong as Zeus. You don't have access to the Myrmidon, which is so strong. Poseidon only has the power of Heliopoli and Colossi, also no Bellerophon. So that's why Zeus is above Poseidon and Hades. However, Poseidon is a much stronger raiding god, so if you really, really love your raiding and you want to play a strong god, Poseidon is good. You can definitely beat all the top tier gods with Poseidon. He's by no means a weak god. He's just not quite on the level of Zeus. And I say that as if Zeus is the be-all and end-all of Greek. He's not. There's a guy who by the name of Ghostlake who plays Poseidon and plays it phenomenally well. He's a top-tier player, top 5 in my books. And yeah, he plays Poseidon incredibly well. So let's move on to anything else to say about Greek? Well, I guess no, let's just move on to Egyptian. I've already spent I don't even know how long on this. Anyways, Egyptian. Egypt is such a strong race. You have Ra, Isis, and Set. Now Ra is tier 2, Isis is tier 1, and Set is tier 1. It's sort of in brackets because it requires immaculate skill to be good at Set. Like he's such a high skill cap. Anyways, let's start with Ra. Ra has access to rain. and basically that means your strategy is going to be built around making farms and making a lot of food happen from your farms. So you've got a 5% Pharaoh resource and power rate bonus, and priests can empower. This means you get a really strong economy, and you can see this trend of economy with Ra, and that's why Ra's so good. Also has 10% cavalry chariot speed and 22% HP. This 10% cavalry speed means your micro is super important. With having this cavalry at that speed, it means they can dodge arrows, which means if a cavalry is getting attacked by, let's say, Toxite, you can run it back and forth, dodge arrows. Really strong micro technique, which I'll get into in another video. Also, the minus 25% monument cost and 20% bonus HP means building monuments is really appealing, and doing certain myth unit strats is also really common with Ra. In the archaic age, it's not much to talk about. Basically, you can use rain in the classical age. It's not the best time to use it unless you've got a specific reason for it, such as having no food in your starting line of sight. But basically, it's rain. You can use it and it boosts your economy immensely. Classical age, access to Bast. Bast, extremely powerful. You get access to Eclipse, which basically makes your myth units ridiculously strong, and you can win pretty much every fight. It also blocks all other god powers, so there's no counter to it in terms of using another god power to counter it. I say that in that you can counter Eclipse by not fighting while Eclipse is happening. There's always that option. You can always not fight, but you have to sacrifice something because of it, and generally a good player will use Eclipse and force the situation rather than anything else. But if you can help it, you want to run. Also has access to some wood and farming upgrades. So if you go the farming route, going Bast is really strong. However, Ptah, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, has access to shifting sand, which many people believe is the strongest classical age god power in the game, period, because you can shift 250 hit points of an enemy civilian, which is 3 villages at full HP, or 1,000 hit points of enemy military, which is a lot of units. Like, say they're playing on Alfheim, you find your enemy has a forward base with their, let's say it's Zeus. Zeus is doing an Athena rush against you. You find him he's built like 2 barracks and 2 archery ranges, and he's farming, he's hunting deer right next to it. He's got like 5 hoplite and 5 toxite there. Shifting sands those villages and those units onto a cliff, and they're dead. You can't pick them up until the heroic age. No, until the heroic age, and he has to use Underworld to pick them up. So he's going to delete them. Anyways, that's the general gist of why it's so strong. Also, you can shift villages at the start of the game as soon as you hit classical age, so a really fast advance time, like 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Shifting sands those villages into your base, you get 3 villages killed at the start of the game, and that basically puts you ahead 3 villages, which snowballs into a huge villager lead and an economic lead at that point. Also, Ptah has access to Shoutout, which makes your farms dirt cheap. They're like 30 gold or something ridiculous. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it reduces it ridiculously, and then you can make a bunch of farms and get a really stellar economy going. Hathor and Sekhmet in terms of heroic age gods, and why Ra is so strong in heroic age and why they're considered such strong gods. Hathor has Locust. Locust kills villages. Villages dead means you get a really strong economy, and you see this pattern of economy being the reason, like Ra's strength. Also, Rock means you can fly your units around, which means you can raid with very little answer. It's very difficult to deal with a rock raid, especially with 2 Pesjustios in them. I believe 2 Pesjustios, 1 hit a villager. I think it's that. It might be 3. But basically, you raid with 2 Pesjustios, and you kill villagers over and over and over again, and then you get ahead economically, and you win. And that's why Hathor is so strong. And also Sekhmet. Sekhmet is good in Egyptian wars because of scarabs. You can do a surprise scarab rush I would recommend using Sekhmet only when you really specifically want to use Scarabs, because the Bone Bow and the Citadel are more of a happy coincidence that they come with Sekhmet. They're not the best sort of unit. Scarab is what you want if you're going Sekhmet, because Hathor is just so good. And the reason why Egyptian is so good in the Heroic Age is because of Migdols and Chariot Archers and Khumri. Their army is so strong in the Heroic Age, and dealing with it is incredibly difficult for every god, including themselves. Like, you come up against them, you have to micro so well to win that fight. It's all about the micro in terms of Egyptian wars, but yeah, it's Chariot Archers, it's Migdols, it's all that junk. Mythic Age, Osiris is 99% of the time your pick as Ra for the Heroic Age, for the Mythic Age. Horus, maybe I'm a bit too generous. Maybe it's more like 90% Osiris, 10% Horus. Horus just makes your Classical Age units really strong, but you have access to Migdols by then, so generally you want to be using them anyways. And also Osiris, Son of Osiris, can deal with armies and armies and armies, and he's really strong. And mummies too, really powerful units. So tier 2, we'll explain why he's not quite as strong as Isis and Set. Now, Isis has access to prosperity. Prosperity means you can get lots of gold, which means you can place Migdols down, yada yada yada. It's really good. Anubis is a classical fight army. If you're going to be classical fighting, you want to take Anubis. If you're going to be fast heroicing, you want to take Bast. Same reasons as Ra to take Bast. You take Anubis because serpents are really strong on water, and you generally want a classical fight on water. Also, Anubis gives you Anubites, which are really strong at raiding because they can jump over things and get in and out of places. And they also has an upgrade. It's not a very strong upgrade, but it's an upgrade for spearmen, which make them scary, to say the least. Let's skip the Classical Age, because generally Isis is a Heroic Age god, and you can fast heroic with Isis in most situations. Nephthys and Bast. So Ancestors, Eclipse. Ancestors summons 13 minions, Eclipse makes them stronger, and now there's no counter to them because you've blocked all god powers. It's that simple. That's why Isis is strong. Isis also has access to monument blocking, which means there's no you can't use your aggressive god powers against her, which is really frustrating. You have to kill the monument first and then use it. And if you can kill the monument, chances are you've already won the fight. So it comes down to that. Also has access to Hathor, similar to the Horus Osiris thing. It's sort of 90% Nephthys, 10% Hathor. Generally only want to go Hathor if you're trolling. It's 99% chance, 99% of the time Nephthys, 1% Hathor. It's Hathor is not as strong as Nephthys, and that's basically why Ra is not as strong as Isis. What Nephthys does is allows you to fast heroic safely. You fast heroic, you use Ancestors Eclipse to get your second gold mine if they haven't pressured you off it, and if they haven't pressured you off it, you use it as an aggressive pushing tool to win the game. Mythic Age, Osiris and Thoth, both really strong. 50% chance to pick either of these gods. Thoth makes your Migdol units train instantly once you get the upgrade. It's really expensive, but makes your late game really incredibly strong. And Osiris, Son of Osiris, is just the really strong unit. It's basically that. Basically. Anyways, Phoenix are strong as well, but they're not that great late game because they cost so much favor for what they do. I mean, not favor, they cost so much population for what they do. So why then is Isis in the same tier as Zeus? It's because her late game is on par with Zeus's late game. And that's a scary thing considering Zeus has Myrmidon, Heliopoli, and Colossi. It's because of Thoth generally, and Son of Osiris in some degree, but Thoth because you can instantly train units. You've got Mercenary as well, and you can just spam them. Now, set the god who is either in tier 3 or in tier 1. Now, people might disagree with me and say he's a tier 2 god if you're bad with him. Like, not top level, but in my opinion, if you can't play Set well, not worth playing. And this is why. Set requires the most APM, the most decision making, and the most successful use of economy management you can muster. His economy is so bad, he has no bonuses to his economy whatsoever, except for Shoutout, but no bonuses at all, as opposed to every other god who has a bonus in some way, shape, or form, so his economy is going to fail miserably. And yeah, basically. So let's go into it. Let's explain some stuff. Set has 20% archer build time reduced, 10% slinger HP armor increased, 25% migdol cost reduced. Pharaohs can summon animals and priests can convert animals. So that means you can get some free animals. It means that you get some cheaper migdols, and it means that your slingers are pretty strong and your chariots build faster. Basically, that's the gist of his bonuses. Vision is kind of underwhelming most of the time, but it allows you to get your priest to work really super quick. At the early game, you can cast it on an area, convert an animal, send it back to your base, and kill it to hunt quicker and get some economy back from what you've already lost. Anubis, generally not want to go this god. Ptah is better in most situations than Anubis, just because he has bonuses for barracks units, just as Anubis has bonuses for spearmen and access to shifting sands, which I've already debated is one of the strongest god powers in the game. However, if you want to be aggressive on the water, on a water map such as Mediterranean, Anubis is strong to take that under control. I don't think I need to talk much about Ptah, but basically, shifting sands is stronger with Set than is Ra, and because you have access to animals which allow you to scout, which means you can pull those villages back earlier and with more frequency. Is that the right word? I think so. Yes. So yeah. So let's say let's go into quickly why Set is so rubbish if you're bad and so good if you're good. To be good with Set, you need to advance at like 4 minutes and 10 seconds. Which is a scary thought, considering if you advance at 4 minutes and 10 seconds, your economy is going to be shit. It's going to be absolutely god awful. You're not going to have any archaic upgrades, maybe hunting dogs if you're lucky. Yeah, hunting dogs. You'll have hunting dogs. You won't have anything else. You're going to have to sacrifice Pharaoh time, empowering, and priest time converting with harass. And then you're going to have to be really focused on this harassment, so you're not going to have any time to deal with your economy. That's why he's strong. His early game is immaculate. It's the strongest in the game if done correctly. He's got access to shifting sands, which means you can damage units, villages, and get them into that 250 HP threshold and shift like 5 villages if you do it correctly, which is immense at 4 minutes and 10 seconds when you've probably only got like, I don't know, 18 villages out, so you've just lost 5, you're now at 12. That's ridiculous. So that's the early game. Now, Nephthys means you're going to be in a similar situation to Isis. You don't have access to Eclipse though, which means Ancestors Eclipse isn't going to be an offer for you, but Ancestors is still really good. Allows you to, after your earlier harass, allows you to jump straight to the heroic age and still be strong militarily because you have access to Ancestors. Sacrament, on the other hand, not very strong in this situation because you're not going to be building a monument. Well, you will, but not many monuments. So you're probably not going to use that. I haven't seen any Set player go Sacrament. Probably 100% of the time take Nephthys. That's a probably pretty fair statement there. 95% of the time take Thoth, 5% take Horus, depending on if you're still using classical units. Often I see Set players do the aggressive start into 3 town center, classical army, and then skip heroic age for mythic age, and just make stuff. So you can do that, and it works. So So Set has the strongest early game in the game when done right. He has an immaculate heroic age on par with Isis, and his mythic age is also on par with Isis. So he's got a stronger early game than Isis, an equal heroic age. Well, it's probably a little bit less strong heroic age because you don't have clips, ancestor clips, and the same sort of late game as Isis. So that's why he's tier 1. But if you can't abuse that if you can't abuse that early advantage that Set has, your economy is going to just be weak in the heroic age, it's going to be weak in the mythic age, and it's just going to be an awful time for you. So if you want to get good and you want to play this god and show everyone, hey, look at me being really good at this game, really good, play Set. Now on to Norse. Let's keep going. I don't know. Let me just check how long I've been going on this. I don't know. Anyways, we'll just continue. Norse, Thor, Odin, Loki. Thor used to be a tier 1 god before the strategies for the tier 1 gods got so strong that Thor just fell off. Thor is now tier 2 god. Sadly, he's not that crash hot anymore, and at the top level he doesn't see much play, unfortunately. Let's just jump into it, I suppose. Thor, 2 initial dwarves, 25% dwarf food and wood gather rate increase, 25% minus armory technology cost, and 3 extra armory techs. This means that Thor, you'd think that this would mean that Thor's late game is pretty strong. It doesn't. It makes his Ragnarok stronger, not his late game. Anyways, the 2 initial dwarves allows for different build orders for the early game. I'll probably talk about build orders maybe at the end of this video, probably not, maybe for a different video. It depends on how long I go for. Anyways, Thor's got access to Dwarven Goldmine, which is such a strong archaic age god power, but unfortunately he needs it in the archaic age to bolster his economy rather than later in the game. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think if people delve more into using the Dwarven Mine as a classical or heroic age god power, you might start being able to see some play at the top level. However, it's been like so long since Thor's had any innovation. I hope that someone innovates with Thor and he can become strong again, but I don't see any really strong build orders which don't use Dwarven Goldmine in the classical age. In the archaic age, basically. In any case, so he basically Dwarven Mine is like archaic age god power at this point. You cast it at the start, you get your 2 dwarves mining gold so that you can build some more dwarves later and not have to take so much economy into food at the early game. For Seti, Freya. Both gods extremely strong. It's 50-50 sort of choice between these two. For Seti is really good if you need to deal with myth units and stuff like that, because you get Hall of Thanes. Also, Healing Spring means you can heal your units back up from their raids. Freya really strong. That Forest Fire can... What's it do? It basically deals a bunch of damage to... It deals a bunch of damage to some villages early. You use Forest Fire to kick enemy villages off wood, so that delays any stuff that comes down, any buildings that come down, for example, any Toxito. Basically his wood income becomes nullified. He has to move his villages over to another wood camp. Takes about 30 seconds to get their wood income coming up again. Also, this early Valkyrie means you can damage those really quickly. What I mean by that is Valkyrie is a quick unit. It's a cavalry unit, basically, in a myth unit form, and can kill off some early villages if your opponent isn't ready for it. Norse's classical age is the second weakest in the game, behind Isis and Rast. That's stronger than Norse in the classical age, because their early classical age is so weak, and by the time they get to their strong point, which is in the late classical age, their opponents are already in the heroic age. So it's kind of unfortunate for them that their power spike happens then. Which is why they aren't tier 1. However, their heroic age, their early heroic age is immaculate. Jumping into Bragi and Skadi. Bragi is a game finisher. Skadi is a game delayer, if that makes any sense. You take Bragi if you're in a position that you can win the game with flaming weapons and win the heroic age, or if you're planning to use Ragnarok, flaming weapons and Ragnarok work really well together. Battle Blower, also a really strong myth unit. Skadi on the other hand, you take Frost if you're under immense pressure and you need to use Frost to create a town center or a gold mine or something like that. Frost Giant is also incredibly strong. It's even cheaper than the Battle Boar, and in my opinion, just as strong as the Battle Boar. So, while Bragi is really, really powerful in his own right, Skadi has her own strengths as well. Unfortunately, Tyr was nerfed in Titans. Tyr was the stronger of the two gods in Nilla, in the original Age of Mythology, but in the expansion, he is less strong because of the nerf and also because of classical town centers. Classical town centers means you get more villages out by the time you get to Mythic Age, and it means that your Ragnarok is stronger because of that. Tyr's Fimbulwinter doesn't do as much. Fenris Wilbur is really weak, and basically don't want to take Tyr 90% of the time. You want to take Ragnarok, you want to take Balder. Balder gives you strong siege weapons, it gives you strong fire giants, and it gives you Ragnarok. If you're in a winning position in the heroic, in the Mythic Age, and with Balder, you can finish the game with Ragnarok, you can finish the game with Ballister and fire giants and towers, and it's just a really strong thing. So Thor's tier 2 has a really strong heroic age, basically. It allows him to finish games early instead of waiting for his really weak late game. Odin, unfortunately for all you Odin lovers out there who want to hear me say Odin is tier 2, he's not. He is tier 3, and he's basically a copy of Thor in terms of strategy and everything like that, except he doesn't have access to Bragi, which is why he doesn't have tier 2 status. Great Hunt, it's like you can look at this god and you can think, wow, he's got some really sweet stuff. He's got Great Hunt, which means I can have more food in the Archaic Age. It's got Heimdall, which means I can be aggressive. I've had this extra early boost, and then he's got, like, look at these walking woods. Oh my god, it's 8 trees, which are incredibly strong units. Really strong. But let's go through it. Great Hunt, you go into Heimdall. Heimdall has Undermine, you kill a tower, you use Energy, you lose because your early classical age is weak. It's just Norse. It's just a Norse flaw. So he's got an incredibly strong early game god without the early game power to back it up. Freya's strong for the same reasons as Thor. You're probably going to take Freya. If you're doing a rush, you take Heimdall. Generally, you don't want to rush, though. I don't see it working too often against good players. It can work against lesser players, though, if you want a quick win. Jumping into the Heroic Age. Now, while Walking Woods look like such a strong unit, they're not because you can't control them. If you can control them, it would probably make Odin the strongest god in the game. Like, it's that simple. Like, that one change would pretty much break Odin. Weirdly enough. Actually, maybe not. Maybe Set would still be stronger than him because of his ridiculous early game. Also, Kraken is one of the strongest myth units in the game, but yeah, it's kind of not worth it. You probably want to go Skadi just because it's just stronger than Njord. Maybe 80-20. Let's say that. Yeah, you need to sort of think about why you're going through Njord though. Skadi is just so strong. Balder also strong for the same reasons as Thor. And as you can see, the only difference in these gods is Njord and Heimdall, and they said don't take Heimdall and don't take Njord, so it's basically a lesser Thor without the use of the Balder flaming weapons Ragnarok combo. Let's jump on to the... I'm not saying don't play Odin. If you want to play Odin, play him. He's extremely strong raider. I didn't mention Ravens. Ravens are really good. They're basically map hacks. So if you want to raid heaps, take Odin. It's really good. Loki, probably upper tier 2. He's almost a tier 1 god, except that his early game is so weak, which is why he's bad. Unfortunately, and his late game's weak. But he's got like this really, really strong. He's like the strongest early heroic age in the game, the strongest, because you go through Forseti and you go through Bragi, and then you hit this timing at like 10 minutes with like 15 Hersa with flaming weapons, and you spawn like 50 battle boars, and you make like 50 battle boars from your temple, and you just go around wrecking face. It's heaps fun. Heaps fun. You see that. Anyways, so Loki's got like 10% Hersa speed, 10% myth unit favor cost, reduced, speedier ox guards but weaker, and long-house unit train time is less. So you can see his buffs buff Hersa and myth units, which is great. Hersa so strong with the combination with Hall of Thanes. So we look at Forseti and Heimdall. Same reasons as Odin. Take Heimdall if you want to rush, take Forseti if you don't. But Forseti is so much stronger than Heimdall 95% of the time you don't want to rush, rather than sort of like 80-20 sort of thing with Odin. And also that allows you to get Hall of Fame, just means you can raid heaps, which is really strong. Trolls aren't that good, you don't really want to train them. By the time you hit 100 favor, you will be in the heroic gauge and making battle board anyway. Healing Spring allow you to make really efficient trades with your Hersa. You can kill units, run them away while they're low HP, and then get them healed back up and get them back into the fight, ready for that flaming weapons thing. 100% of the time take Bragi, never take Endured. It's just how it is, unfortunately. Hell, 100% of the time over tier. Hell is so good. You get access to Fire Giants, Nidhogg. Fire Giants is so good. Allow you to finish the game with Ballister. But unfortunately, it's not that strong. So to recap, Norse, really weak early game, really strong late classical game, really strong early heroic age, pretty weak late heroic age, pretty strong early mythic age, really weak late game. So up at tier 2 Loki, tier 2 Thor, tier 3 Odin. Now, my pet hate, Kronos and Uranus and Gaia, the Atlantean gods. I can't deal with them. I played so much of the original game. As soon as I came to Titans, Atlantean just swept me off my feet. Atlantean, if you're new to RTS games, play Atlantean. They have the easiest economy and just so good. They're just really strong. Kronos, basically a lesser Uranus, except for the fact he has a strategy called the Kronos Rush, which I'll go into in a later video, maybe, if I want to see a bunch of Kronos Rushes on the ladder. I don't know if I want to. But basically, it's a really fast advance time, which puts an immaculate amount of pressure on your opponent. Really, really strong. Check out Recorded Games if you want to see that before I put up the video. He can time shift buildings. He has less myth unit cost, and siege units and destroyers cost less. Destroyers are siege units though, which should be in the same category. Anyways, he has deconstruction, really, really strong early goat power. It gives your opponents the resources back, so don't use it on anything that was free. You probably don't want to use it on a tower that was free, but like if you have to, you can. Yeah, actually, if he upgrades his towers, it's worth it because he spent the 200 wood, 100 gold to upgrade them, so it's still worth it. So Prometheus and Leto. 100% of the time take Prometheus. Leto is really, really bad. I've not seen any good strategy with Leto in my days, unfortunately. Prometheus, Valor is just so good. Valor is just so good. It's just 3 human units and a citizen into a hero. So if you're going to use Valor, use it on 3 soldiers and a citizen, never just 3 soldiers unless you have to. Prometheus are also a really, really strong myth unit, 80 gold, 10 favor, just like that speaks for itself. Hyperion versus Rhea. I'm not sure. I'd probably say Rhea's stronger, but I wouldn't know. I don't see Kronos enough. He's one of the least played gods. Not that he's weak. He's sort of tier 2, but he's not played lots because Uranus is so similar to him. So I'm gonna go with Rhea 60-40 in terms of your picking. Trader just it steals a unit, so you can steal that. You can't steal a hero. You can't steal Nidhogg. You can't steal ships or transports. Yeah, So it's pretty strong. You get like a really strong myth unit out of it. Basically, that's what you want to use it on. Anyways, let's jump into the Mythic Age gods. Helios and Atlas. Atlas, Helios is stronger. Vortex means you can move your army anywhere, but basically you're probably going to be going into the Titan Age anyways, and using Vortex to move your army around is just really strong. Implode's not going to do too much damage. I'm not exactly sure how much damage it does, unfortunately, so I can't tell you that because it doesn't say. Argus are like a bad version of mummies and Medusa because they're like a close range weak myth unit, so it's kind of weird there. Hecate Gigantes are pretty strong though. Anyways, Cronus is just really strong in the classical age, like ridiculously strong, like on par with Set, and he can get to the Titan Age really quickly. Let's jump towards Uranus. My most hated god, because this 10% human soldier hero speed plus shockwave. This makes me so like, I just hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Mobility plus shockwave. You get 3 shockwaves, which is the strongest, maybe the second strongest archaic age god power. Maybe the strongest. Strongest or second strongest. It's a toss up between like certain god powers. I'm not going to go into the discussion about it. I think that should be for another day. Anyways, Shockwave basically is similar to Restoration. It lets you win fights you have no business winning. And he has access to 3 of them. So 3 fights you can win. You have no reason to win those fights. You get access to it with Shockwave. Anyways, he's got access to Prometheus. You pick that 100% of the time. Never pick Oceanus. It's bad. Access to Theoth. They're so strong. Pick that 100% of the time. And access to Hecate. So strong. 95% of the time. Helios is still strong, but I just kind of don't want to pick it. Anyways, I'll go through them. I talked about Prometheus with Kronos, so let's talk about Oceanus and why he's so bad. Basically, access to no real myth unit. You get Caladria, which is just bad, has no attack. Access to Carnivora, which is cool. It's basically like bolting a Trireme on water, but it's kind of not worth it. And Servants are kind of bad. Just to say, it's not like it's like a classical age myth unit, and they just really underdid it. It's like this unit is just bad. It's 100% of the time better to spend the time building Bareems than the Servants. Anyways, Promethean and Valor. We talk about that. Let's move on to here. Thea gets Hesperid's Tree, which is basically like a mini monument, a mini Isis monument, so it blocks god powers in a small radius. And you get 5 dryads to build from it, which cost no population, which are basically, what can I compare them to? Like a weak version of something. Let's just call them a strong version of Prometheans, except they don't split into 2. Yeah, that's an easy way. They have Stymphalian birds as well, which are really good to pick off Norse. Really strong against Norse because Norse have no way of dealing with them. And to move on, Hecate. Basically, you go Hecate as a distraction. You make your Tartarian Gate in their base. They have to kill it. While they're killing the Tartarian Gate, you go Titan Age. You build your Titan. They can't stop it. The Titan goes and kills them, and then you type 11, and then say GG. So Uranus actually has the strongest early game because of the speed boosting units, and a really strong late game. Not late game, but like Mythic Age, Titan Age, because you get Titan out earlier than anyone else. I've seen Cyclone getting it out. It's just XPT Cyclone, one of the older experts who pioneered Uranus. Thanks, buddy. Anyways, he got like Titans out at like 15 minutes and wrecked face for a good 6 months with his fast Titan strategy. If you want to see people playing Uranus, I recommend Army Corps. And Gaia. Unfortunately, Gaia, my favorite god, as opposed to Uranus, is the worst god in the game. Tier 3 on par with Odin. I don't really want to talk about her because I don't want to I don't want to put people through that pain. I don't want people to play Gaia and be like, oh, this is gonna be so fun. She's got so many cool like fun elements to her game, but yeah, she doesn't have anything. I'll do it. We'll go through it. So she's got Lush, which is so cool. You can build manors next to town centers, which means that your opponent can't build on them until the Lush goes away. It's hilarious. Hilarious. 30% economic guild technology cost decrease. Huge. Your economy is monstrous as Gaia. Also, minus 10% fishing ship cost with a 20% HP increase means you're going to have 45 wood fishing ships, which is great. It's actually great. Gaia's Forest, your economy is amazing. You get like 7% faster gather rate from these trees. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Oceanus is the god to pick against Leto 100% of the time. Leto is so actually that's probably why it's so bad. Nobody has really pioneered Leto as a useful thing. The automaton are just so weak, so weak. Spider Ledge is so weak. I reckon maybe Gaia can make a resurgence if you use Leto effectively with Spider Lair, because Spider Lair is basically like 4 carnivoras in a sense. Yeah. So that you can see here, the early game, which is so strong with Uranus and Cronus, is just taken to shit with these two gods. Can't use them early game well. Also, no Valor means no access to heroes, which means dealing with early myth units or myth units in general is just really, really difficult. A heroic gauge is pretty good with access to Thea. I used to see a guy named Hotcha playing Gaia at a really, really good level, like 1850-ish, when the top players were like 2100, which is no like feat to be frowned upon. Like, it's really good with Gaia. Actually, might even broken 1900. Anyways, Thea is probably the reason for that. You can build Stymphalian birds against Norse and kill them off really, really easily. And that's probably why he got so high, is because there was an influx of Norse players, so Gaia could actually deal with Norse pretty well. And then finally, Hecate. Hecate is just good. Again, it allows you to do the similar thing with Uranus and get to the Titan Age, put a distraction down, get a Titan, get out. So the reason why Gaia is so fun for me is because you have so much resource. Like, you have so many resources, you just spam units all day. Your economy is so strong, but unfortunately, it's not enough of a bonus to make her strong. I remember on release she had like something ridiculous, like 50% economic guild technology decrease, so she was actually broken then, but they cut it back, so now she's like not anymore. So yeah, the nerfs were too strong. Anyways, let me just look at my list of things to talk about, because I've gone through all the gods. Build orders, I don't want to talk about that. Importance of villages. Alright, I'm going to basically talk into StarCraft 2 players, but anyone in general, this game is different. You don't cut villages, ever. If you cut villages, you go behind economically, and you can't finish a game quick enough to make that not affect you. Even doing like a Chronos Rush and only making the 5 villages in the Archaic Age, you still need to build villages in the Classical Age, otherwise you fall behind and your pressure does nothing. Unless you're killing like a villager every 15 seconds, you're getting behind in villages if you're not building villages. And what villagers do is they gather resources, and resources make units, and units win games. So yeah. Also, that's why town centers are so good. You can make more villages. You make 2 villages every 15 seconds instead of 1, and 3 villages every 15 seconds instead of 1 if you have 3 town centers. So I hope that makes sense. If you learn nothing from this video apart from that, constantly building villages is gonna get you better. Making villages all the time. Never stop. Never stop. Never stop. Also, economic upgrades. Super important. If you don't get economic upgrades, your villages will not gather as efficiently. If you have 10 villages on wood, your opponent has 10, has all the upgrades for their wood village, all the upgrades for their wood villages. You only have hand axe. Their income is going to be like 2,000. No, more than that. They're going to get every 1,000 resources you get, they'll probably get 3,000. That's huge. 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 Really, really large. Anyways, what's next? What else can I talk about? Okay. So there's a misconception that because of StarCraft 2, basically, I think that micro is really important, and if you micro well, you win every game. Yes, micro is really important, but if you can't macro and your micro is affecting your macro, you need to cut back. You need to work on your macro until you macro well enough to micro. I hope that makes sense. When I first started to play, I worked so hard on my micro. I was like 1750-ish at a point, but my macro was horrible. Like god awful. God awful. So what I did was I said, I need to get better at this. So I did it. I got better at macro and I jumped from 1750 to like 1850 in a month. Now that's because I had good micro at that point, but because I worked on my macro, I got better. Saying this, I was 1750 for like a year. So you jump from like 1750 to 1850 in a month is like ridiculous, just because I decided to work on one element. So if that also with the villages and the macro versus micro, if you can macro, you'll be good. You'll be like 1700 instantly if you can macro. I think 1700 is a bit of an under exaggeration now with the new rating system as well. Hotkeys. Let's go in. I'm going to show you my hotkeys. Where is it? How do I get there? It's in settings, isn't it? Edit hotkeys. Okay. So all these hotkeys are important. Don't change them. Select groups. You should change them if you want to. Select groups are super important. You want to group your buildings and your army. You want to group your buildings so you can quickly set rally points to where you need your units to be training, so you don't have your units training in your base, your fight happening on their front, them getting more units pumping into your units, and all your units dying, and you still having like 20 idle units in your base, and you're going, oh damn, I could have won that fight and won the game. So grouping your buildings super important. Grouping your army super important, so you can bounce around and macro, and then jump to your army and micro. Now all this stuff here, I have modified the basic hotkeys to set up a sort of grid. I call it sort of grid. You can see this QTWER. I make the transport ship on T because I just don't ever build them. So it's better to use the W for archer ship. It's just my personal preference. You can see it's up Q. You see all the Qs and Ws. Everything is very, very close together. If you're going to fiddle with hotkeys, you want all your hotkeys to be close together. Observer mode. I haven't seen this. That's cool. Cool. Anyways, that's hotkeys. They're really important. Try and use them if you want to get good. Use them. Army strength, right? All right. Let's do a test. Now we have 5 hoplite. 5 hoplite versus. I'm not sure. I'm not very good at this. Let's go with 5 Hippicon. I'm not sure. I'm not sure who will win, but you need to know. You need to know who will win, because this fight here, if your opponent has an army and you have an army, you need to be able to go, I can win that fight, or I can't win that fight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to playtest this, and we're gonna quickly see who's going to win. Now, the counters here are basically, I'm not even going to micro. I'm just going to focus fire. So he's focus firing me as well. I've killed 1 unit, he's killed 1, he's killed 2, I've killed that one. Alright, the Hippicon win, but they do cost more population, so yeah. And look at them go, look at them go. Basically, this demonstration is to say you need to know what fights you can win and what fights you can't. Because right here, I just lost. I lost with Hoplite versus Hippicon. Now, generally you'd think, oh, Hoplite are the counter to Hippicon because of the rock paper scissors, infantry beat, cavalry beat, archers beat, infantry. But it's not quite like that. So if we make this more of a blob, more of a blob. Whoops, I don't want that. So we got 10. This is about right. This is about a normal army that you'll see on the map. Okay, so we got 10 Toxotos, 10 Hippocon, pretty standard. Now, if we are doing the Hoplite army, Hoplite Toxoto, in this situation, we need to know who's going to win. And this is something you can do. You can go through the editor and you can make your armies and you can see who will win. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we need to know. Now, I will put money. I'll even micro, and this fight's not going to be easy. Red army, super strong here. I'm not actually microing. I'm just trying to pull his units away. So I've got his Toxotos not doing much. You can see his army absolutely shreds mine. Absolutely, it's not even close. Look, it's not, and I even did a little bit of micro. Not that it was effective micro, it was probably not effective, but that sort of thing is what you need to be aware of. If you see that army versus yours, don't fight it. Walk away and look for a different fight later in the game when your army is stronger. So that's that, and that's really important. I see a lot of new players when I look at their recording games and they ask me for help. The reason they lost is because they fought a fight they couldn't win, 9 times out of 10. Obviously macro is important as well, because that's probably why you fought the fight you couldn't win, because your army is weaker than theirs because you couldn't macro out an army to fight them. Alright, what's next? So that's army strength, victory conditions. So, in supremacy, you might think there's only a few victory conditions. Win by conquest, win by wonder, win by settlements. There's a third one, there's a fourth one. Your opponent resigning, right? You don't really think about this, but your opponent resigning. So how do we make our opponent resign? Let's look at the resources. We cut our opponent off a resource, and they can't build that type of unit. So say your opponent has no food, that means they can't build any infantry. Probably not going to be able to cut them off food because they have farms though. Say your opponent has no wood, that means they can't make any archers or buildings. If they're Egyptian, they can still make buildings, but not archers. Anyways, that's generally difficult because there's going to be wood close to their base. Let's say they don't have any gold. They can't build anything, period. All military units cost gold. So, gold control is actually a victory condition in my opinion. If your opponent has no gold, you win. Simple as that. Second victory condition in your opponent resigning. You have 4 town centers to their 2 town centers. If you have 4 town centers, that means you're 180 pop to 180 potential pop to 140 pop. So getting 4 town centers means you're very likely to win. It's not as clear and cut as a gold because you can if you're grabbing town centers your opponent techs, they can take back the town center with superior tech, and you can't deal with that. Is there any other conditions? Killing your opponent's villages, like getting ahead economically. If you kill off like 20 villages, your opponent loses. So pretty much loses, that's to say. So that's victory conditions. Now, to finish off this video, it's probably gone way over what I thought it would, but I want to plug these 2 sites really heavily. rtssanctuary.com is the place to go if you want to see expert recorded games. It's the only place at the moment. It's super good. There's also guides. I've got a 1600 to 1700 guide, basically how you can learn how to get better. Like learn by yourself, not watching any videos, not reading any guides, learning through doing and getting better. There's like Uranus guides, there's Gaia guides, there's God specific guides all over there. There's also a community of really good players who will help out and troll you. So you have to be careful there, but it's a pretty friendly place if you get past all of the shenanigans that go on. And the other place is Reddit/r/Age of Mythology. It's a community place. It's great. You can post stuff up there. I'm pretty frequent on that place, so say hi to me and all that other good junk. Anyways, I hope this video was educational. I hope you guys got something out of it and learned something about it. My name is Boit. I am a shoutcaster. I do commentaries and all that other stuff. So I also play a bit of the game. Thinking about getting some gameplay footage up as well at some point if I can get some good games. And I'll see you guys next time. Be sure to subscribe, comment, and rate my video in the thumbs up way instead of the thumbs down way. And yeah, catch you next time, guys.